Hello, first tonight, another furious protest on the streets of Luton. On one side, a group of angry young men. On the other, a Conservative shadow minister.
Baroness Sayeeda Warsi is the Tory spokesperson for community cohesion. Andrew Sinclair was following a walkabout in Bury Park when the eggs started to fly. He's in Luton now. Andrew.
Stuart, Sayeeda Warsi was recently named as one of the most influential Muslim women in Britain. She's a lawyer, she's involved in a charity that promotes women's rights in Pakistan, and she's highly regarded by David Cameron, which is why she was made Shadow Minister for Social Cohesion. But being a successful Muslim woman has made her a few enemies, as she found out again this evening. This was an important visit for the Conservative Party in Luton, a senior shadow minister with a great deal of knowledge about social and racial issues in a town where tensions do come to the fore every now and again. And they came to the fore this evening. Baroness Warsi was confronted by a group of men. Eggs were thrown. Her minders tried to move her away, but she wanted to confront them.
Hold on a minute. You know what? Islam teaches, you know the Prophet Muhammad. How much have you sold yourself? No. Are you going to tell us about Islam? Your conduct,
we don't sell our religion. Shame on you. We haven't sold our religion like that. You have the audacity to come and tell us about Islamic etiquette. Shame on you not to follow. How dare you follow?
About a dozen or so men were involved in the protest. They're believed to be members of the same group that disrupted a Royal Anglian homecoming parade earlier this year.
We're just against everything she stands for. She don't represent Islam, she don't represent the Muslims, and we just find it very offensive that she's come all the way down here to a Muslim area trying to say that she represents our views, trying to represent the Muslims. She clearly doesn't. She's against Sharia, she doesn't implement the Quran, neither the traditions of the Prophet. She's in support of our Muslims dying in Afghanistan and Iraq. So how is it that she's representing us?
She's a practicing Muslim.
She's not a practicing Muslim. Obviously, she says she's a practicing Muslim, but we have Islam for us to define what a practicing Muslim is. And clearly, by looking at her, she does not represent Islam or the Muslims.
And is it right to throw eggs at her?
No one from us threw eggs at her. We were here just to have to confront her, to see what her views were. We don't know who threw the eggs. Obviously, those people, they obviously should be accounted for what they did.
Eventually, Baroness Warsi was taken into a sari shop to clean up.
Actually, I think that was very interesting for you to see, because what you saw there actually was a direct conflict between the real British Muslims, which are these guys that are walking around with me, and you saw people who are actually bringing the faith of Islam into huge disrepute.
Yeah.
And it's these people who bring their faith into disrepute, much like Nick Griffin brings his faith and his community into disrepute, that Britain needs to be very clear about, because these people, all they want to do is preach hate and divide societies, and we have them, unfortunately, in all cultures and in all religions.
She insisted her walkabout should continue, although this time the police stayed nearby. And a short while ago, Baroness Warsi made it back to the Conservative Club here in Luton, and she's with me now. Your reaction to what happened out there?
Well, it's been an interesting day, to say the least. What I was saying earlier was that the very values that these people wish to use, the values of freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom of expression, are the very values, actually, they also disagree with. And what has come out of today, what's been so interesting, is that the good people of Luton, whatever colour, whatever faith, whatever religion, have all stood together and said these people do not speak for Luton. But it's also been wider than that. I've had so many text messages on my phone, because clearly the BBC have been reporting it, from across the country saying these people do not represent British Muslims, they do not speak in our name.
So what do you do about small groups of people like this who do bring the Muslim faith and the Muslim religion into such bad disrepute?
I mean, the sad reality is that there will always be groups and individuals in all faiths who will always bring their faith and their communities into disrepute. For many, many years, British Muslims like me have been saying that the likes of Umar, Bakri and Hamza and others who preach extremism should not be allowed on our streets to poison the minds of young people. And there is legislation which can be used to ensure that that does not happen.
So the government needs to use this legislation more?
Well, Well, first of all, the government needs to use the legislation that it has, but it also needs to have a very clear policy about where it's going. You know, we've seen instances where the government have been talking about preventing violent extremism, and yet the very projects that they have been funding do not actually deal with the issues of extremism. We've also had issues about very serious cultural and religious issues which need to be tackled, but the government have chosen not to do so in the interests of cultural sensitivity. I think the government's understanding of their own policies is flawed.
OK, Baroness Warsi, thank you very much. There is still a small group of protesters just down the road from here, but the police are there and everyone's hoping the rest of the evening passes without incident.
Andrew, thank you very much.